This podcast has 8 chapters in which he tells a terrifying history of how a mad scientist is attracted to dead bodies and sees how to create life. The history begins with a letter from Walton to his sister Margaret, where he explains the monster and the purpose of the expedition.
Frankenstein was born in Geneva. His father was a magistrate. He grew up with his brother William and his adoptive sister Elizabeth. His sister was cute and gentle. His father was rich and respected, and his mother a noble woman.
He lived a happy childhood with his brothers and his best friend, Henry Clerval. Henry was interested in nature and beauty. On the other hand, Frankenstein was attracted to science, and his dream was to make something that no one had created before in the scientific world.
Frankenstein, at the age of 17, was sent to Ingolstadt to begin his studies when Elizabeth contracted scarlet fever. While she was recovering, her mother had been taking care of her and contracted the same disease. And before she died, she told Frankenstein and Elizabeth that she wanted them to will marry.
After a time of mourning the death of his mother, Frankenstein travels to Ingolstadt to resume his studies. That's where he meets Professor Waldman, who inspired him to continue with his studies and his passion for science. Frankenstein was curious to know about where life came from, and then he discovered the secret to creating it. Frankenstein dedicated himself to giving life to a human being. He spent 2 years of his life working day and night and did not rest until he saw his project ready. On November 9th, he finally gave his creation, but it turns out to be something horrible, a beast. When he wakes up, he sees the monster he had created.
What was in front of him was someone tall with rose skin, yellow eyes, black lips, and yellow skin. Frankenstein panics and runs off and stayed outside to sleep. The next day, he meets Henry, and he asks him what if something was wrong, and Victor fainted. After several months sick, one morning he received a letter from Elizabeth telling him that she was worried about him.
Frankenstein forgets what he had created and thinks about returning home while he is interested in poems and language. When he returns home, he finds a letter from his father. The letter said that his brother William had been murdered, strangled Elizabeth, that it had been because of her mother Nicholas in abandoned robbery. Frankenstein returned to Genova, and everything was different. The city gates were closed, so she had to spend the night in a small town. A storm came, and as he passed by, a lightning bolt fell and something huge and ugly appeared in front of him, and he realized that it was the monster he had given life to. In today's new episode from the novel Frankenstein, we will be talking about chapter 3. In the last episode, we talked about how Victor's received a note. What this note say? Who is from? The note was from his father, which explained that he had awful news. His little brother was killed by a strangulation in the neck, and his father did not ask for revenge. He only wanted his son come home.
Victor began his journey back to his home. Every day he got closer to his hometown, he got more and more scared. He decided to stop in the first place his little brother was assassinated, and by his surprise, he found a big tall man speeding through the mountains, and his first thought was, "Is this my creation?" The next day he arrived to his hometown and wanting to tell his family who the killer was, but he decided to not tell them because they would think he was crazy. They declared their servant Justin guilty because they found her mother's necklace in her pocket.
Victor needed a break, so he decided to climb Mont Blanc, a very big snowy mountain. When he was climbing, to his surprise, a big person started spinning towards him, and it was his creation. Victor was in pain. He didn't know one to see him, but the monster keeps insisting to him to hear his history.
Hello everyone, good evening, it is us again. We know you have been waiting for this episode. Without further ado, let's begin episode number 4. The monster began to explain his story. He started by escaping the lab where he was created. He was scared to leave and very hungry, but he started to adapt to his life he was giving. He was happy during the night, where no one saw him, but he was sad and had to hide in the day. As time passed, he had to survive, look for food and comfort, so he decided to travel and explore. He found the village, but the people inside screamed with fear and escaped, so he decided to leave them alone.
He found another village, but this one was more interesting to him. He decided to hide in a hut and spy on them. He saw a girl and a boy working every day, and an old man by a campfire to sing every day. They were very united and bond all night. He discovered and learned a lot more about them. He discovered that the old man was blind. All the monster could of was that he wanted to be with them.
The monster started learning the language more and more every day, and his thought of being with them grew stronger. He started to fantasize a life with them. He learned now their story and now knew how to talk fluently the human language.
Good evening, everyone. It's us again. We are back with full joy and excitement to keep telling this amazing novel. So let's keep it going. With chapter 5. The monster started to feel jealous because he wanted to betray like family to everyone, but sadly no one liked him. One night in August, he was walking in the woods and he found a bag full of books.
The books showed him what were thoughts and what are feelings. Every day he got angrier. He wanted to be a part of something, wanted to feel love, but he can't, and it's all that his creator. All he ever then of was revenge, but he still wanted to be loved, so he decided to show up in the village and thought that now, because he knows how to talk, they will accept him. So he waited one day when the kids went to find food. He would present himself to the blind man.
He presented himself as a traveler who was lost and needed comfort. He started talking to him, and the old guy was happy and accepted him. The monster talked about how he needed help. He explained that no one would accept him. The old man responded saying that if they are good friends, they are good people. But the monster replied with a sad gesture. The old man wanted to hear his story. When he started to tell him, the two kids came back and they saw him. They were scared for their lives. The boy attacked him and the lady fainted, so the monster ran away and decided not to attack him. Whoa! Good evening, everyone. It is a beautiful day, the sun is shining, and we are telling an amazing story. We left off at chapter 5, and as we promised, here is chapter 6. The monster finished telling the story, and he cursed Frankenstein because he made him. He explained to him that he killed his brother because of vengeance. The monster told him that he wanted company. He told him to make a living being like him, or he would suffer by killing all of his family and killing him.
The monster promised him that if he accepted the deal, he would leave the humans alone and leave Europe and go to South America and lived in the jungle. Victor came back to his town where his dog talked to him and gave him the idea of marriage. Where Victor said that he wanted to marry Elizabeth, his dad wanted him to marry her as soon as possible, but he was scared of the monster and knew that he had to finish his work. So he said that he will go back to Ingolstadt and finish some work first.
Good evening, everyone. It's us again. We are back with full joy and excitement to keep telling this amazing novel. So let's keep it going. With chapter 5. The monster started to feel jealous because he wanted to betray like family to everyone, but sadly, no one liked him. One night in August, he was walking in the woods and he found a bag full of books.
The books showed him what were thoughts and what are feelings. Every day he got angrier. He wanted to be a part of something, wanted to feel love, but he can't, and it's all that his creator. All he ever then of was revenge, but he still wanted to be loved, so he decided to show up in the village and thought that now, because he knows how to talk, they will accept him. So he waited one day when the kids went to find food. He will present himself to the blind man.
He presented himself as a traveler who was lost and needed comfort. He started talking to him, and the old guy was happy and accepted him. The monster talked about how he needed help. He explained that no one would accept him. The old man responded saying that if they are good friends, they are good people. But the monster replied with a sad gesture. The old man wanted to hear his story. When he started to tell him, the two kids came back and they saw him. They were scared for their lives. The boy attacked him and the lady fainted, so the monster ran away and decided not to attack him. Whoa! Good evening, everyone. It is a beautiful day, the sun is shining, and we are telling an amazing story. We left off at chapter 5, and as we promised, here is chapter 6. The monster finished telling the story and he cursed Frankenstein because he made him. He explained to him that he killed his brother because of vengeance. The monster told him that he wanted company. He told him to make a living being like him, or he would suffer by killing all of his family and killing him.
The monster promised him that if he accepted the deal, he would leave the humans alone and leave Europe and go to South America and live in the jungle. Victor came back to his town where his dog talked to him and gave him the idea of marriage. Where Victor said that he wanted to marry Elizabeth, his dad wanted him to marry her as soon as possible, but he was scared of the monster and knew that he had to finish his work. So he said that he will go back to Ingolstadt and finish some work first.
He traveled back with his friend Henry. He knew that if he traveled with him, the monster would keep distance. As soon as he got the chance, he started his work on the maid of the monster. He spent a lot of time and was almost finished. One night working on the maid, he saw the monster in his back window staring at him. His mind blew up with anger and he knew he was making a bad decision. So he reacted and destroyed his work, tearing the body into pieces. The monster came and asked why he did that. He asked if he broke the promise, and Victor said yes. And the monster said that he would suffer. And we're back. Good evening, everyone. It's your favorite podcast with your favorite history, the novel of Frankenstein. We're now on chapter number 7. Let's begin. Frankenstein began traveling, and one day he ended up in Ireland, where he arrived sleeping in a boat. As soon as he arrived, people were mad, but he didn't know why. When he asked, there was a murder the night he arrived, so that made a suspect. They took him to a magistrate, and he explained that the killer assassinated a person, shocking him. As soon as he said that Victor knew who was it, they proceeded to take Victor to see who died, and it was his fellow friend Henry.
Victor was really sad and began to call him a murderer. He began to feel very ill and started to have horrible dreams of his family being killed, and he even asked the devil to kill the person who is torturing him. When he recovered, they put him in prison, and one day he had a visitor. He thought it was the monster, but it was his father. He was proven innocent, and his father took him home, but they stopped at Paris first.
In Paris, he received a letter from Elizabeth telling him this: "My dear Victor, I am so glad that you're coming home. How much you must have suffered. I want you to find comfort and tranquility. For this reason, my dear friend, I am writing to explain something to you. You know that both of your parents have always wanted us to get married. We have always loved each other, but perhaps our love is the love of brother and sister. Tell me, my dearest Victor, do you love someone else? You have been away for so many years, first in Ingolstadt and then in Britain. When you left last year, I thought maybe you were running away from me. I love you and have always dreamt of a future together with you. But I want your happiness as well as my own. Our marriage would make me miserable if I thought that you did not wish it. Believe me, Victor, I love you too much and to make you unhappy. Be happy, my friend. Obey me in this one request, and I will be contented." Victor was frightened because he knew that the monster was after him. He was afraid that he would kill her wife, but he decided to marry her anyways. They got married and went on to the honeymoon. And in the hotel, he knew that the monster would cause damage and he would be after him. He thought the monster would kill him. So he asked his wife Elizabeth to go to the room. Then he started looking for him in the hotel, when suddenly he heard a loud scream. It was Elizabeth. He sprinted to the room and found her dead, and he fainted. When he woke up, he saw the monster in the window, so he shot him, but he missed, and the monster ran away. He went back to his hometown and told his father what had happened. His father became very ill with the news. He could not live with it, with so much sadness, and he died. He told the police what had happened and who was the monster, but they did not believe him, so he decided that his fate was to pursue him alone. He traveled all of Europe with a crew and a person who he considered a friend. His name was Walton. Looking for him, the monster kept leaving signs and saying that Victor would suffer all his life. He was closer to home every time, until one day he reached the village, where they told him that they saw the monster. He went that direction they told him, and he found himself in ice, and in the distance he saw a dark speck. It was him! Suddenly the ice broke, and it separated him from the monster. He found himself in the middle of the water floating on an ice sheet, where he told Walton to kill the monster as Victor was slowly dying.
Coming to an end on this amazing and terrifying novel about Frankenstein. What will happen? Will the monster die? Let's go into it. Walton is writing another letter to his sister Margaret. Whoa, amazing, right? He's explaining how Victor died and that he was really sad because he died alone. He explained that when he died, he said his few last words.
He said that he has connected to his family spirits, and he now no longer feels revenge or ambition. He feels that he is on a place and connected to them. He wished Walton well and told him to not be ambitious and to not look for the monster. Walton decided to go back to England.
He then heard a loud voice in the cabin, where Victor died. He sprinted there, and there he was, the terrible creature, the monster. He was looking at Victor, saddened with grief. Walton came up close to him and confronted him. The monster explained that he was evil and he was very sorry about what happened. But that was his destiny. His destiny was to avenge himself, and killing Victor, making him suffer. Walton wanted to kill him, as Victor told him to. But the monster said that he was going to the most northern point in the North Pole and burn himself, so no one would experiment on him and create another creature. So the monster jumped out the cabin window, and that was the last time they saw him. Thank you very much for listening to our podcast and being with us to listen to this amazing novel written by Mary Shelley. It was an honor speaking to you guys.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you, Teacher Zuleika.
We learned a lot from this project, and we hope we have more projects like this one.
Bye.
Bye!